does work. Even though only 5% of people seem to be having cybersecurity at top of mind at a firm-wide level, you can go to almost every firm and find someone whose only job is to keep the world safe. And they build, typically, their own remote access solutions. So we're going to use the tale of Tom. His real name is not Tom, but he works in irrigation, and he has large plants. Tom had built a system, so on the right we have our asset cluster, and on the left we have an operator or third party that needs access to that asset cluster. Well, what Tom did was he had the operator VPN to the corporate network and then pass through the pre-existing security stack that he had located there. After they'd VPN to the corporate network, they then went to something called a jump host, which once they figured out how to get through that, they went to another jump host, which was on the asset cluster. And then they did an RDP connection to a virtual machine that had been stood up on a private cloud that linked them to the asset cluster. Now, this worked, but connecting securely to industrial control systems through this system was taking 12 to 15 minutes. And from the perspective of operations, this was both madness and it was wrong because they were arguing their time should matter more than that. So the villain in all of this, from an engineering perspective, which Tom came to find, was friction. These components that we were looking at were each requiring a human interaction, a deliberative one. So you're VPNing to the corporate network. Well, that takes a few minutes. Your jump host process, if you remember how to get through a jump host, that takes a few minutes, and so on. What Dispel does is we do secure remote access to industrial controls in about 20 seconds. The way this works is as follows. So let's say we have on the left our product control team, and on the right we have a set of different facilities. We're going to distinguish these as separate networks. Each of these has its own security stack and its own internet access point. We're going to narrow this down to one facility for visual clarity. The first thing that gets placed at the network perimeter is something called a Wicket External Systems Integrator. Now, I will note, however, that this and the product control team, for the purposes of this conversation, are Grantek related devices. So what Dispel has done is place its external systems integrator onto the box that Grantek ships you as part of Engineer in a Box. What that software allows is for the system to proactively reach out and find what we call an enclave. This is a moving target defense software-defined wide area network. If you happen to be interested in cyber resiliency, I would refer you to the new NIST standards that call for moving target defense networking. But in any case, this is, and to break the rule about talking about encryption, a cascade ciphered network, which is using AES 256 with independent 4096-bit keys for the initial key exchange. In any case, this network ties into the cloud-based assets that different vendors afford to perform maintenance on OT devices. So let's say this is the Rockwell support system. That would be based on a cloud. How do you link that in safely? We use the equivalent of the software that's at the network perimeter, but instead on a virtual machine in the cloud where the Rockwell system is located. If you want to do patching, what we do is we stage these onto servers that are tied directly to the enclave. This allows Grantek, for example, or the cybersecurity team to come in and analyze those patches to make sure that they work before pushing them down to the assets. Then there's a virtual desktop. Each one of these virtual desktops is launched specifically for one particular person with the tools that they need to do the particular job that they've been assigned to do. When the person is done with their task, this virtual desktop is destroyed and replaced with a fresh one. People are able to access this system through a web-based console. That web-based console uses whatever authentication methods the customer desires. And then comes the part that cybersecurity really cares about, which is knowing what happened and when it happened. So this is tying in recording systems, logging systems, the ability to watch over the proverbial shoulder of the person who's accessing an asset to see if they're making a mistake. And all of that ties back to both security teams and OT teams if they're providing support. Finally, and this we do not expect to happen very frequently, we do have a solution for if you have a tablet-based system, for example, where you trust these devices and they don't otherwise have internet access. Well, if you trust the device and it's part of your network, there should be a way to access the system even faster. And we do that using an application. So this will get you to your OT system in about 3 seconds instead.